I'm here with Dr. Kevin Dexpointer. Doctor, other than World War I and the Sherry Dew Rebellion, what other important historical events have occurred in the Swicket?
Well, there's quite a few, Troy. How much time do you have?
I'm actually bored of you already, so let's keep this shorter than a slouching leprechaun.
Very well. The Swicket serves as the nexus for all events leading up to Western expansion. The Swicket is where the Transcontinental Railroad was completed. The Swicket
I hate to contradict you because that will probably prolong this interview, but there is no railroad here.
Well, not anymore, Troy. They relocated all the railroads during the No Deal to provide work for the unemployed.
Wouldn't that be counterproductive?
Actually, that was FDR's campaign slogan. Counterproductive is how we do it. It's been the Democrats' motto ever since.
What else has occurred here?
Well, how about the California Gold Rush?
One would think that the California Gold Rush started in California.
Well, Troy, one would assume incorrectly. J. Golden Kimball claimed to see gold from the top of the Swicket in order to urge non-members to keep moving west.
I have enough patience for one more. You better make this better than Diane's story.
Okay, how about starting the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Missiles make headlines. Go for it.
Well, Castro became convinced during the Cold War that the Swicket was used to house nuclear missiles aimed at Cuba.
And was it?
Well, have you ever noticed the steam coming out around the base of the building?
Yes.
Well, don't stand in it for too long if you ever want to have children.
I hate children.
Well, do you like dying of excruciating radiation poisoning?
I haven't tried it, but I would assume not.
Well, don't stand in it for too long.
Words to live by. Now back to Diane. Feel free to change the channel for the next several minutes, as absolutely nothing of any importance will be said.
I don't really know how to respond to that. Perhaps I should read a yearbook entry. Herbert Ferguson, most likely to die alone in a pit. I'm guessing you weren't homecoming king. In fact, you probably didn't even go to homecoming, since that would have required talking to a girl. Obviously, the Swicket is rich in historical background. Among the many well-documented events that did occur here, there are many that might have occurred. Some say that this is a place where BYU keeps all of its food storage. Others say that this is a landing platform for UFOs. Some even believe that this is a place where Icarus made his famous flight from the top of the Swicket. We tried to reenact this scene, but evidently use a flawed wing design. Instead of a moment of silence, we will have a moment of music for Laura.
I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky.
Ironically, she hated that song. But it begs the question, has anyone ever survived a fall from the top of the Swicket? The answer? No, they have not. But on to a lighter subject, let's read from Diane's diary. Luckily, the little pink lock was easy to pick, as was the lock to her trailer. Stupid conversation number 3. Is Play-Doh a vegetable? Number 4. What is the best way to electrically power a coffin? Number 8. Who would win in a fight, 10 Angel Moronis or the Statue of Liberty? And number 16. What are 10 good reasons to see Church Ball? Wow, to think she's had all those conversations in the past week. I didn't know she even had any friends. Speaking of the Frigid Ice Queen, let's turn it over to her.
If by Frigid Ice Queen you mean won't date Troy, then I'll gladly accept that title, as will every other woman in the Western Hemisphere.
Excuse me, aren't you supposed to be interviewing me?
Just taking care of an embarrassment to my profession. So, Gary, what do you do?
Well, Diane, I'm in charge of the BYU International Cinema here at the Swicket.
And how do you decide which films to show?
Well, my options are quite limited, actually. I mean, the French films show a little too much sex. Those German films got quite a bunch of violent scenes. The Japanese ones, of course, cause seizures, and so I don't have too many options.
Aren't you accepting a pretty broad stereotype?
Well, wait a minute. If you want to watch those French films with all that sex, be my guest. Be apostate.
So what do you show?
Well, we like to show those Canadian films. They're pretty tame. The British ones, even more tame. In fact, the other day we watched, what was it? Rocky IV, you know, when he goes to Russia?
That hardly counts as foreign. What about Bollywood?
Nah, I don't really like that dancing, singing crap.
Hong Kong cinema?
Crap.
Europe, Africa, or South America?
Crap, and double crap.
You can't just show Strange Brew and BBC reruns all the time.
Wait a minute. I mean, we do show films that sound foreign. The Italian Job, Big Trouble in Little China, Ernest Goes to Paraguay. In fact, sometimes we even put on the subtitles to make it feel foreign.
Any closing comments?
Let's just remember, it's free, so stop complaining.
Well, there you have it. And the hairs on the back of my neck have just stood up, which can only mean one thing. Troy has now entered the building.
Wow, that's a lot of hair. I wonder if the hair on her back stands up as well.
Insulting me again behind my back?
I do it to your face more often, but it hurts my eyes.
What was your mother like?
Resorting to your mom jokes.
I just suspect that she's probably the only woman in the world who doesn't want grandchildren.
She only said that twice.
Well, on a happier subject than Troy's potential offspring, which is about anything, let's take a tour of the Swicket. This is the ground floor where there's the international cinema, psychology classes, and then of course the campus stockpile of confiscated Ouija boards.
Here we have the 4 main elevators that allow BYU students to avoid any unnecessary exertion. Of course, when the Swicket was first constructed, the elevator had not yet been invented, and we simply had 4 empty shafts here. Legend states that Carl G. Mazer would toss honor code offenders down these shafts before the weekly devotional, presumably to be eaten by the midgets below. Now all honor code offenders are taken care of in the dungeons of the ASB.
Let's take a look at some of the other amazing floors of the Swicket.
This is the 5th floor, home of the MFHD department. MFHD is defined as the art of making yourself appear attractive to men. Diane, evidently you've never heard of this program.
Attractive to men, Troy, not lower primates like yourself. Besides being home to the MFHD program, the 5th floor is also haunted. If you see any sanguine substances dripping from the walls, you are advised to drop everything and run, screaming in terror. Let's keep moving up.
In accordance with construction superstition, the Swicket was built without a 13th floor. As an extra precaution, the architect removed the 6th and 7th floors.
The 10th floor is rented out to a Mongolian law firm. Although they haven't had much business in Provo, they remain optimistic.
The 11th floor is the highest you can go using the elevator. To access the 12th floor, you must bypass a laser security system.
I asked my homeboy Cecil the other week when we were hanging out what goes on up there. All he could say was animal testing.
But what are they testing on these animals? Theories range from rocket boots to shrinking rays to a beautifying cream known simply as Anti-Diane.
Or perhaps they were working on an anti-aging cream to help Troy grow up. I dared him to go up and break in, but since he's too much of a girly man, the world will never know what goes on up there.
I'm going to ignore those jabs like I ignore your odor. We finished our tour of the Swicket. Now let's find out what the student body feels about this building. I decided to go investigate. In the Swicket, they perform animal testing. Tell us in 5.5 words or less how you feel about this.
Sounds good to me. Eh?
Animal testing is good for... Ugh.
What kind of animals do they test?
They test on rats.
Babies
No, adult rats.
and baby humans.
Actually, yes.
I'd actually feel better if they switched to gerbils.
Just gerbils. How about Provo High students?
That's a good idea too. Or even Fallon.
Babies.
You can test Fallon. He's
Test
interesting.
on Fallon and or babies.
You know, I've never really been to Provo High.
That's true.
But if they wanted to go to Liberty High, that would be okay.